is Kim DeBosier, co-chair of the Tampa Bay Chamber's Policy Council. I want to thank and welcome the viewers tuning in to our 2020 Virtual Candidate Forum Series. The Tampa Bay Chamber focuses on policy, not politics, and while we do not endorse, we want to make sure our members and the business community are informed on where candidates stand on issues that are important to business. Today, we're excited to have candidates for Pasco Superintendent of Schools. I would like to welcome David LaRoche and Kurt Browning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
So we are 6 weeks away. It's coming around the corner. Can you give us a brief 60 seconds or less update on your campaign and what message you want to deliver to voters in the final stretch? We'll start with Mr. LaRoche.
Thank you, Kim. Sure. So the campaign obviously has been changed because of the COVID virus and what we're having to do to get out there. Of course, this is a political campaign, so it's very important that that we get our message out and that the voters have a clear understanding of where everyone is. And it is difficult, but so that's why I really appreciate today and having the opportunity to get in front of some voters, whoever's participating and watching, and let them know what I am all about. As a longtime Pasco resident, I am a 30-year Pasco teacher and administrator, the last 20 years as a high school administrator in schools here in Pasco. I also teach for the past decade at University or St. Leo University graduate students in education. So I have a wide range of experiences, and I have been part of this Pasco for a long time as an educator, and I care very deeply. I grew up here, been here since 1978, so I care very deeply about education and my career, and my leadership background, of course, reflects that. My platform is completely built on the idea that I am not a politician. I am an educator, and around classroom, specifically around classroom, and I'll hopefully be able to elaborate on that a little bit going forward.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Browning.
Thank you, Kimberly. I want to just thank the Tampa Bay Chamber for allowing us to have this opportunity to speak to your membership. This COVID thing has really thrown us all for a loop. Matter of fact, I'm recovering from COVID. I've been out for the last 2.5 weeks and still trying to get my strength back. But welcome the opportunity to be with you this morning and talk a little bit about the district and why I believe that voters should allow me to continue serving as superintendent. The district has changed a lot in the last 8 years, and it's changed very positively over the last 8 years. When I became superintendent of schools, there was little choice for parents. Matter of fact, I had a son in school, 2 boys in school at the time, not them, but when they were in school at Pasco High School, and they were invited to be part of the International Baccalaureate program. And being from East Pasco, the only place they could go was Land O'Lakes, and that was just not right. Land O'Lakes and Gulf High Schools were the only ones where you could get choice, and now there's all kinds of choice, and hopefully I'll be able to have an opportunity to talk about that. I too, well, let me just say I am a native Pasco Countyan, born and raised in Dade City, raised my family here. My mother, who's 93 years old, was a graduate of Pasco High School herself. We're invested in this community, never thinking that I would have the opportunity to manage the district in which I graduated from. I too am very classroom centric, very teacher centric. I have taught myself at Pasco Hernando State College before I went to serve as Florida Secretary of State. I was teaching American federal government, state and local government. But it's about what we can do to make sure that our kids are getting what they need to get in order to be successful. Our kids in Pasco need to be able to compete with those kids in Hillsborough and Pinellas counties. And that is one of the things that my team and I have set out to do while providing those opportunities, those robust opportunities for them to participate. So look forward to talking about these issues over the next hour.
Great, thank you. Well, let's move on to issues. Please tell us the 3 most pressing issues the next superintendent will face, and how, if elected, you plan to address those issues. And we'll go ahead and let Kurt start with that.
Yes, absolutely. The first one that comes to mind is the achievement gap. We were on a trajectory to really see great gains in our student data this year. COVID threw us for a loop. We didn't get to see the state testing results because the state postponed all the testing. Our teachers have worked hard. I mean, they have really worked hard at closing that achievement gap. One of the things that we've got to do, and I support the commissioner wholeheartedly on this, and that is making sure that when we bring kids back in the fall, that we bring them back with the express purpose of not only to close the achievement gap, but to narrow that gap even more, because we know that it has widened. It's widened because of distance learning. We had to make a very quick decision, and for the most part, we were successful in Pasco. More successful than a number of districts, even in the greater Tampa Bay area. But we still know we have that gap that we need to close. The equity gap, we've done a lot of work around equity, making sure that all of our students are getting opportunities, regardless of what their skin color is or how we've stereotyped kids. We need to make sure that kids have the opportunities to take those courses. And then not only that, but we also need to look at teacher salaries. We have, every year since I've been superintendent, we have had raises for our teachers. The types of raises that I want to give, absolutely not. But we have made a lot of positive forward progress in raises. So we continue to work at finding ways and revenue sources in order to fund good raises for our teachers and staff.
Great, thank you. And Mr. LaRoche.
Sure. So my three most important issues going into this campaign are built around classroom and opportunity for students. It is, if you look back at Pasco County specifically, since 2007, we have not made meaningful supports for teachers in their classrooms a priority. And year after year after year, we have struggled to make teacher pay, for example, a priority in our district. That has to change. We cannot continue. We are the lowest payer in the region on average, and we are the lowest paying large district in the state of Florida. So to say that we have made that a priority over time is not true, and we need to do something about that. Teachers are leaving our schools to go to other districts in droves. The second issue, also related to the classroom, is supporting teachers in terms of the teaching environment. We have, and I've talked to families, I've talked to educators, I've talked to teachers, I've talked to anybody that would listen when it comes to this issue. Our classrooms there are way too many unruly students in our classrooms. Our students can't walk in and feel safe to get an education, and our teachers are struggling to go to class every day, conduct a lesson plan, and not be interrupted by behaviors. That's something that has gotten 10 times worse over the past 8 years. It was recognized in 2012 as a huge problem that would be addressed, and it has not been addressed. And teachers are leaving. Parents are leaving our schools to go to charter schools because they are not going to have their kids in our classrooms. So that's my second issue. My third issue is investing in communities. We have not done a good job of investing in communities when it comes to career and technical education. We have been asked by our own board, by the state of Florida, by the governor, to actually focus in that area. And we have done Kurt talked about choice. We are not giving all students the right opportunities. The opportunities that we're building in Pasco, and they're just starting now, are all about acceleration and students that are going to college. Our students are not being prepared for anything outside of, and we need to have a plan in place to make sure that that's happening across the district.
Great. I'll let you continue then, David, to describe your experience with school and business partnerships, and how would you develop such partnerships here?
Excellent question. I think that that's an area that we have lacked in our schools. We don't focus on parent involvement. We don't focus on parent engagement. We don't focus on community engagement. And there is no department or oversight when it comes to that issue related to Pasco County and our own communities. I have met with probably hundreds of community leaders since this campaign started, and they are frustrated with the fact that our school system doesn't reach out and doesn't have them be involved. And I think it hurts our kids. So my plan would be to put a significant put something in place, significant, an initiative that would make sure that we have parent and community involvement in our schools in so many different ways. I've been to various staff development trainings off in the state of Florida, and I have been enlightened by what our options could be. And I'm frustrated with the fact that Pasco is just not taking advantage of those opportunities to bring the community into our schools.
All right, Kurt, same question. School business partnerships.
Yeah, I think Dr. LaRoche is all wrong on this one. I will tell you that we actually have parent and community involvement coordinators in our schools. Matter of fact, Dr. LaRoche's wife happens to be a parent and community involvement coordinator in one of our schools. So to sit there and say that we are not interfacing with our business community, we have advisory boards for many of our academies. We've got 40 academies across our high schools. We have 13 career clusters just in our high schools, where we have advisory committees that we have interfaced with those business partners. We can't manage these career academies and provide the level of instruction without that involvement from our community. I will tell you that we pre-qualify, pre-screen tens of thousands of parent volunteers into our schools. Can we use more? Absolutely, we can use more. There's always work. I've always said that the job of public education is to partner with moms and dads, to partner with our communities, because we are in fact educating the workforce for our communities. I want our kids to stay here. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of involvement, but we are doing that, and we are doing it very strategically in this district.
Great. Well, I'll let you continue, Superintendent, to briefly describe how you would go about developing a comprehensive 5-year plan for the district and how you would implement it.
A 5-year comprehensive plan in regards to career and technical, or?
No, just in general.
Sure.
A general vision for the district.
Sure, and we have that. We call it our success plan, and we have implemented our success plan, which is an ever-changing document. We're probably in year 3 or 4 of that. It is a measurable, actionable plan. It is not a strategic plan that a bunch of folks get into a room where you pay a consultant large amounts of money to develop, and it sits on a shelf. Nobody ever looks at it. Nobody references it. And how do you know whether or not you're achieving your goals? This district has been laser focused on the different areas of that plan, from student achievement to value for taxpayers to making sure our employees are happy. And we're wanting to make sure that we are meeting the objectives of that plan. We have a success plan guiding team that comes in every quarter, looks at the data. This isn't data that we just manufacture. This is data that is generated by our system, that is fit into these metrics to say, are we meeting our goals? If we're not, what's going on? Why are we not meeting our goals? And at the end of the day, are our students, are our staff, is our community best served in that? So we have the plan. We continue to tweak that plan. I'm very, very proud of that success plan and what it's done for this district, because it has laser focused us on what the priorities are of making sure that all of our kids, all of our employees are getting what they need to get in order to be successful.
So, Dr. LaRoche, would you develop a different comprehensive 5-year plan for the district, and how would you implement it?
I would absolutely have to develop a different plan. Obviously, Mr. Browning mentioned that they're in the middle of this plan, and I can't share with you the details of that plan, but I can tell you that I'm a bit concerned, because we started off in 2012 when he was elected, ranked 41st in the state of Florida when it comes to our districts. I'm sorry, ranked 34th. Sorry, I flipped it. 34th. Now we are 41st. And so after 8 years, we have gone down significantly in terms of the opportunities or the plan that we have in place and that laser focus that he talked about. So it's not working, so maybe we need to go back and build a different plan. That's where I would come in. I would focus on opportunity, yes, and it would be laser focused, but it would be focused on classroom, and it would be focused on improving opportunities for students through the classroom, and it would be focused on investing in all of the corners of the district that have been forgotten for the past 8 years. The Dade City or LaCoochee area, Newport Richey downtown near Minnepewauk, Hudson Elementary School, Ridgewood High School that closed, and it's hard to actually figure out why all of those things happen. I can tell you, if you don't invest in your schools early and recognize what you need to do in terms of opportunity for kids, you're not going to have success. There's no question about that in my mind. That's what the research says, and I'm concerned that we in Pasco have ignored what the research says about how to fix our struggling communities and do something about it early on.
Well, let's talk a little bit about students, specifically students with disabilities. Could you describe your experience with and philosophy regarding education for students with disabilities? We'll start with Dr. LaRoche.
Sure. I have lots of and very deep understanding and experience with students with disabilities. I was the principal at Hudson High School for well over 12 years. And we had the highest number of units of any secondary school in Pasco County, IND units in Pasco County. So I had built a staff there. I was responsible for organizing the staff there. I was responsible for building the supports. And I've had so many teachers and educators from Pasco County ask me questions about what are you going to do to create better opportunities for these students. These students graduate from our high schools and they are just not prepared for the real world that they're going to be living in. It's our responsibility as educators to make sure that every student, all students, get the same opportunities because they are our future. And we are obligated to take care of every single one. I can tell you that the supports that we have in place at Hudson High School were as good as we could provide given the allocations and resources that we were given. We need to reallocate resources according to need in this district, not number. And that's what we've done for years. I've asked for this for many, many times with the assistant superintendent, whoever was in place. And I have been told, Dave, we are not ready for that. We still have to do it like way we've always done it, by number, not by need. And that's how decisions get made about ESC students. And that's how wrong decisions get made about the communities in our district that are forgotten. We can't just take care of the 54 corridor. We have to take care of the small communities that are really struggling, low income, high minority areas in our district that have been forgotten, and that is wrong. And we have to do something about that. And it is related to the question you just asked in supporting ESC. Many, many of these students reside in those places, and they are not getting the supports that they need. i.e., why are they shutting down Hudson Elementary School? Your question hits that to a T.
Right. Superintendent Browning, how about your experience with a philosophy regarding students with disabilities?
Sure. Thank you. I think once again, Dr. LaRoche doesn't understand the full picture. ESE students are complex students. Since becoming superintendent, my team and I have changed the way that we provide services to our students with disabilities, or our ESE students. I don't think there's any single one right way in order to deal with this. We do look at the research. We have looked at the research. We've looked at models that other districts are using quite successfully. We are not a perfect system. These students are now being required to get a standard diploma, which is different than what they've been able to do in the past. And we need to make sure that these students are not forgotten. I don't know where Dr. LaRoche is coming from when he says these students are forgotten. We have pumped millions of dollars into ESE services. And what Dr. LaRoche doesn't understand is when it comes to state budgeting, so much of the dollars that come down to us are not dollars that we get to decide how we're going to spend those. Those are dollars those are tagged to a system that's been set up by the state that quite honestly is archaic. It doesn't address the needs. But what we have done is we've been creative in using those dollars as best we can in order to provide those students with the services that they are so rightly entitled to. They are not forgotten students in this district. As long as I'm here, they will never be forgotten students. No student in this district will be forgotten. I don't care whether you're from Dade City, LaCoochee, whether you're mentioning some of the schools in inner city Newport Richey. We're making incredible investments in these communities, incredible. And if we have time, we'll get into why we closed Hudson Elementary School. I don't think you have to live under a rock in order to figure out why we made that decision. It was not an easy decision, but it was a decision that needed to be made in order to better serve those students at Hudson L.
Well, let's go ahead and pivot to economic development. Utilization of public-private partnerships, P3s, continue to be an asset for local governments across the country. What opportunities for P3s do you see in Pasco County? Superintendent?
Absolutely. Great question. Starkey Ranch. That is a primary example of we call it a triple P, but it's a public-private partnership because not only did it involve Pasco County schools, it included Pasco County government, it included a private developer, which is the Starkey Development folks. We're building our first K-8 school, true K-8 school in Starkey Ranch, well up out of the ground. Just named the principal just Friday. But that was a true public partnership because we know in order for us to leverage the resources that we need, in order for us to be responsive to our communities, we have to develop those relationships. I mean, we've been recognized nationally as that triple P relationship for Starkey K-8. And that's just the first one. We've actually gone back in and we've actually opened up our existing school facilities to the public. We have these facilities that are sitting there and we'll use them during the daytime, but we lock them up at night and nobody gets to use them. I mean, when you look at what we're doing at Starkey, but not only that, in addition to that, but other schools that have existing playground equipments, tennis courts, basketball courts, track and field, those kind of things. Those are all partnerships that we believe working with the county parks department, local homeowners associations, private entities, better utilizing the resources that public tax money is paid for. We're very, very proud in this district of our public-private partnerships that not only are here, but what they continue to do and what we're continuing to do moving forward.
Great. Dr. LaRoche, what opportunities do you see in Pasco for P3s?
Well, I guess I'm concerned because the only example that we're giving right now is the Starkey Ranch K-8. I can give you, I'm not sure why this hasn't been an initiative or something that was a priority for a long time. My guess is that the county commissioners and the school system don't work hand in hand when it comes to planning for the future. I think that those opportunities are fantastic. I'm not sure why we're starting now and not haven't built something significant that's already in place in our district going forward. I am a big time supporter of any kind of initiative where we actually attach to the community and use resources from the community, the commission in Pasco County and school system to better the life of not only our students, but the community in general, or our communities in general. It's interesting to me, the placement of that school. A lot of the growth, I understand, is taking place there. But what about utilizing community resources and support? Many of the people that I've talked to are frustrated with the fact they've not been able to reach into or have the school system reach out to them so that they can better support our kids, especially in our struggling communities. I would like to see the commission and the school system actually work in these communities to better their situations at their school for their kids, where they actually have an opportunity going to school every day. It's interesting that some schools in Pasco, and if you look at the facilities in Pasco, for example, you'll find that certain schools are getting renovations and getting certain things quicker. For instance, locker rooms. I noticed that River Ridge High School has a brand new locker room, not sure how it was paid for. I noticed that Mitchell High School just had a brand new locker room put in for their athletes. They are beautiful facilities. Mitchell just opened in 2000. I was an assistant principal there. My school, Hudson High School, deplorable conditions. We have asked, it's unsafe where our football team actually changes their clothes. We don't have a locker room or a weight room. I had to create one on the stage in our auditorium or in our gym on the top of the stage. I had to make sure the floor could actually hold that weight. That was 8 years ago that I did that, because my kids were having to walk out to a locker room that was unsanitary, unclean. Kids could get staph infections, and I had reported this for a long time. So I see a plan where we actually utilize the community and get them involved in our schools in these places that have been forgotten. And I do understand this district. I don't appreciate the comment that I don't. I do. I've been here. I'm an educator, and I understand what it's going to take to make us and take us in the right direction when it comes to opportunities for our kids. We have forgotten these places.
Kim, can I ask a question?
A quick question.
Well, I think that Dr. LaRoche is saying some things that I would like the opportunity to respond to. And I'm not sure.
Can we, yeah, because it's not a debate, can you hold that maybe and at your time at the end, make your point? Okay, sure. So let's just go on to these, and then you'll have time in the end to bring that up again. Quickly, let's talk about technology. Dr. LaRoche, as technology becomes more integrated into learning, what sorts of changes would you like to see made in order to make Pasco County schools more technologically advanced?
Excellent question. So obviously in 2020, it's been an effort for a while for us to integrate technology into the classroom. And I have to tout the skill level of the teachers that are coming out of college now to be teachers from either St. Leo or from the University of South Florida, where I got my education. They are highly trained in terms of utilizing technology in the classroom to better instruct, to augment, or to as a complementary piece of their lesson plan on a daily basis. I have so many teachers at Hudson High School that have done such a great job, and they're younger. Some of the older staff struggle with it, but I think that in this day and age, it is the one way to help us build that relationship and rapport with kids and be relevant and efficient when it comes to the daily use of instruction in our classrooms.
Great.
So,
okay.
What's that?
Well, we're running a little short on time.
I'm sorry. So my plan would be to expand that as much as possible. I am concerned about in Pasco the number of devices that we are able to purchase for our kids, because I'm not sure it's equitable across the district. I've not seen the numbers from the other schools, but I personally at Hudson have struggled to meet the ratio that the district has decided we need to be at. So I'll end with that.
Great. Superintendent Browning, what changes would you like to see?
Yes, ma'am. It is equitable. We are working more towards equity across this district. When I became superintendent, we were probably sitting at a 5-to-1 ratio of 5 students to 1 computer. Now we're sitting at about 2+ to 1, slightly over 2 devices, 2 students to each device. It was pretty evident that when we moved into distance learning, that we had ample devices in order to push out the students that needed that. One of the things that we find is that more and more of our educational classroom instruction is in fact digital. And so we need to make sure that we can keep up with that. Our teachers are phenomenal. They have accommodated, they've adjusted, and they understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. Technology is expensive. What we did as a district, though, is we strategically moved to a lease so that not only do we don't even purchase equipment anymore, but we lease equipment so that we get that refresh on a much regular basis. Old computers are bad computers. And so what we found was this district that for many years before I got here, were purchasing computers, certainly not enough computers. And we were purchasing them. They were being used and used and used. And then they were getting to the age where they couldn't support software and applications and those kind of things. And so we made the decision about 3 years ago, to start getting into the leasing business. And it saved us money, and it also guarantees a refresh, not only for our students, but also for our teachers and administrators. And we're not where we need to be, but certainly we're much better off today than where we were 8 years ago.
Great. Thank you. And let's now talk a little bit about staff recruitment. So Governor DeSantis recently signed into law increases to teacher pay, which is a very positive step. As superintendent, how would you see recruiting and retention to get the best possible educators?
Absolutely. Thanks. A great question. Dr. LaRoche made the comment on a previous question asked, made the comment that our teachers are leaving in droves. That is not true. Kimberly, it is not true. We have teachers coming back in from Hillsborough County that are wanting to teach in Pasco. They want to get out of Hillsborough. We have some of that with Pinellas, but we have teachers that are graduating from college, and they are coming into Pasco because they like the feel of Pasco. They like the less bureaucratic environment that we have in Pasco. Matter of fact, we have a new teacher academy at River Ridge High School. We're getting ready to replicate that at Zephyr Hills High School, and we're growing our own. Beth Hess, our teacher extraordinaire at River Ridge, she's knocking it out of the park, and these kids are so committed. We've actually got kids that are passing the general knowledge test as juniors and seniors. And I've already told them, we've already had a signing day for these kids, that when you get your 4-year degree, you've got a job in Pasco. That's how you recruit. We've limited our recruiting trips to out of state. We still rely heavily on USF, St. Leo University. And what we're seeing, though, is we're seeing a lot of teachers, a good number of teachers coming in that are second career folks. We want to make sure that they have the pedagogy, that they understand classroom management, that they understand discipline, that they understand all the things that's necessary in order to have an effective classroom. But we don't need to discount these folks. We certainly do not need to discount these folks. These folks are playing a critical role in the education of our kids. So we have a very robust HREQ department. We have a very robust recruitment program. We have people wanting to come to Pasco to work. And that's the environment that we want to create, not just today, but moving forward.
Great. Dr. LaRoche, how would you like to see recruitment and retention handled to make sure that you've got the best possible teachers?
Well, obviously, I have a lot to say about this subject. I don't believe that our HR department actually focuses and has priorities in the right areas, and they don't have a plan for retention of teachers that actually choose to start in Pasco. And salary is a huge issue. Discipline in the classroom is a huge issue for teachers right now in Pasco County. We have to address it. And then, of course, teacher voice. Teacher voice is an issue, and maybe I'll be able to talk about that at the end. But in terms of recruiting and attracting teachers, Pasco is not attractive. It is a very attractive place for people to raise their family. But when it comes to the school system, when they look at our record here for the past 8 years, they are struggling to make that decision, and teachers are leaving our school system. I can give you 5 examples from this past year just from Hudson High School alone. That left to go to Hillsborough specifically. One of the big concerns I have when it comes to a plan in our HR department is diversity. We don't have a diversity plan when it comes to attracting and hiring staff for our kids in Pasco County. It's not been a focus for a long time, and I have talked to many teachers that work in schools right now, and I've talked to administrators that work in schools right now, and they are very concerned about the fact that the diversity of our teaching staffs in our schools does not reflect the student makeup of their schools, and that's a problem. And it's an issue for them, and I think it's an issue for the kids also. There is a lot of research out there that says that teachers need to truly understand where their kids are coming from to build that rapport. Otherwise, students aren't getting anything from that educator. And so we need to work real hard to make sure that teachers understand who their audience is and who their kids are every single day. And some of that has to do with diversity, and we do not have a plan. So I would be putting a task force in place underneath HR to make sure that our plan was to attract and retain quality, diverse staff across the district. So that would be my number one concern.
Great. Thank you. You both mentioned equity in your comments thus far. How would you lead existing Pasco County schools to make changes in systems, processes, and approaches to close achievement gaps? Start with Dr. LaRoche.
So closing the achievement gap is a huge issue. I think that it is related to some of the concepts that I brought up before about some of the forgotten areas of the district. Those are the areas that we do struggle the most when it comes to the achievement gap, and it needs to be addressed. And I think that the plan that we put in place to address those things has to be focused on investing in those schools, investing in the opportunities for those kids to make sure we're being equitable. I don't believe that we have a solid plan in place for all students. We have a plan in place to focus on accelerated students that are definitely college bound, and that has started here in Pasco really for the last couple of years, and that has been a focus. But our kids, for example, at Hudson High School, out of every 100 kids, I might have 25 kids that actually leave my school and actually are interested or choosing to go to college. That doesn't even say that they're going to finish. So what about the other 75 students? And ask yourself the question, in Pasco County, are we truly putting in place the supports, the opportunities, the learning environments for all of our kids to actually get ready for the 21st century in terms of the future and whatever the career area that they choose to go in? Our kids don't have to go to college anymore. There are so many opportunities that we should be providing for our kids to be equitable, and we're not. So I want to see a significant change in our approach when it comes to all of our kids in Pasco, focused on those areas that I mentioned.
Thank you. All right, Superintendent, how would you continue to lead changes to close that achievement gap?
Well, Kimberly, the Pasco district has done incredible work in the area of equity. Not equality, but equity. These areas that Dr. LaRoche keeps referring to as forgotten areas, these are some of the very areas where we have focused so much of our equity work. We believe that each student ought to have opportunities for high rigor academic opportunities. That is the reason that a while back we introduced Cambridge, the Cambridge International Program, to the district, and we were looking at that as a magnet tool. And quite honestly, I was looking at it a little wrong. After a lot of work and a lot of soul searching and looking at different districts and how they were using Cambridge, we're using Cambridge as an equity tool. Why should the kids in Anclote? Why should the kids in Hudson not have the same opportunities that they have at other schools throughout this district? The amount of choice that we have provided to our students over the last 8 years has been staggering, absolutely staggering. And it's not just for those high flyers, not for those super bright kids, but also for those kids that are bright, but we have never recognized the fact that they have the skills, and maybe with a little bit of support, they have the skills in order to be successful. Matter of fact, the Pasco district, we've done a lot of work with equal opportunity schools, and it was looking at closing that achievement gap. It was looking at the equity issue. The Pasco district, out of 13,000+ districts across this country, was just named College Board's AP Large District of the Year. And how do we do that? Because it was the number of kids that were taking, and I'm not talking about your super bright kids. I'm talking about your kids of color. I'm talking about your kids of color not only attempting coursework, rigorous coursework, but also passing rigorous coursework. I mean, for anybody to sit here and say that we are being very strategic and just looking at these kids that are bright and high flyers, That is all wrong. That is how you start closing that achievement gap. You give them opportunities. What we have found is when you put those opportunities before kids, those kids will rise to the occasion. Those teachers in those classrooms will work their tails off in making sure that every student, each student, has the ability to succeed in that type of coursework. Cambridge, our graduation rates have gone up significantly, the highest they've ever been. But I will tell you that doesn't happen by accident. It happens by targeting each and every student at the school level. And that's where it happens. And holding principals accountable, holding teachers accountable, holding the district and holding the superintendent accountable for how successful we're providing those opportunities for our kids. We're going to close that achievement gap. We're going to get there. And we have made great strides in doing just that.
Thank you. So we've touched on several important policies, but before we wrap up, as we promised, we wanted to give you a chance to talk about a priority that you have that we didn't discuss, or something you would like to re-emphasize. And let's try to keep this to a minute if we can. Let's start with Superintendent Browning.
Yes, ma'am. So this is closing remark, right?
Yes, it is.
Listen, first off, thank you for the opportunity to do this. I always welcome the opportunity to talk about the great things that are going on in this district. We are not a perfect district, but I will tell you we're a much better district today than we were 8 years ago. The amount of choice that we are providing to our kids and our families, we have got to provide choice. We've got to stay relevant as a public school system, because if we don't, families will take their kids someplace else. They will take their kids to other schools. They will take them to other districts. They will take them to charters. They will take them to private schools. They will homeschool their kids. So we are competing. We want to be the very best, and we are the best option that parents have for education, K-12 education in this area. Our teachers are warriors. Our teachers work hard every day to ensure that each one of our kids gets what they need in order to be successful. We are not through. We've increased graduation rates. We have received all kinds of honors for the academic achievements we've made. We are so very close to being an A district that if grades had come out this fall or this summer, we would have been an A district. I'm confident of that. And it's because of the work that our teachers have done in the classrooms. So we continue to move forward. Dr. LaRoche mentioned earlier that we've drawn from 33 or something to 41. What Dr. LaRoche doesn't understand is this convoluted state accountability system we have, because we're a B district and we're about 4 or 5 percentage points away from an A, and you're still 41st out of 67. There's a finite number of districts in this box, and it means that you have districts that are doing great work out ahead of Pasco. But like I said, I am confident that if we had testing this spring, if we had those results released, this district would have been an A district. We're not finished. Our kids deserve it. We continue to work hard at providing that to them, and we want to be the very, very best value that we can be for our families.
Great. Thank you. And Dr. LaRoche, your closing remarks, please.
Thank you, Kim. I want to close with really where I started out. You know, my entire focus is really on classroom. You know, when the governor put in place, this is the year of the teacher, there was a lot that went into that. And it was all about resources focused on improving classroom. And we all know that the #1 determinant of student success is an outstanding classroom, or a teacher in every classroom, hands down. We have not done that in Pasco. We have not focused on the classroom teacher, because a lot of our decisions are being made for, I believe, for political reasons rather than student reasons. And that has to change, and that's why I'm running this campaign. I mentioned teacher pay, atrocious in Pasco, and teachers are leaving for that. I mentioned student discipline, atrocious in Pasco, and that has to change now, because our teachers are scared, our students are scared to be in classrooms. The third thing that I mentioned before, and I really want to revisit it again, is teacher voice. Teachers are concerned because they don't have a collective teacher efficacy in their schools. I was able to build that at Hudson That's where I've had the success at Hudson. 2 B grades for a Title I high school is unheard of for 2 years in a row. Would have had 3. Again, as Mr. Browning mentioned, the data didn't happen this year, no testing. So I'm sure it'll happen, even though I'm not there anymore. I'm sure that Hudson has enough in place where that's going to happen going forward. Hudson is a wonderful school. But I mentioned teacher voice before. Teachers don't feel like they have the ability to do the job when they walk in every day. And that's because they're not being heard. Let me give you a very good example of that. I've talked to my teachers this summer. Obviously, I'm not there anymore, but I've talked to them. And they gave me a specific example of something that happened since I left. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with reading programs that the district purchases to use district-wide. Well, for the last 4 or 5 years, Hudson High School has gone out of the box, and we have purchased because our teachers love it. St. Leo actually did a study with us, and the outcomes loves it. Reading Plus. I was just informed that even though my teachers love it, and we have fought for years to get the district to help us pay for it, this year it's been shut down. For what reason, I don't know. The teachers told me they were just told it will not happen anymore. We're going to have to go with whatever the district says we have to. What research they're using, I don't know. But I can tell you they're not using teacher voice and experience to make decisions at the district level. And that's frustrating for teachers. And that's just one example that I know has happened just recently, that our teachers are frustrated in the classrooms for all 3 of those reasons. And we have got to address that. That's why this is the year of the teacher. That's why he's done that with pay, because this can be a fantastic opportunity for kids in Pasco, but we are holding our teachers back, and we need to grow it and give our students the opportunity they need to be successful in going forward here in their career.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim.
Dr. LaRoche, where can voters go to learn more about your campaign and your position on issues that are most important to them?
Well, I do have a website, drlaroche2020.org. They can go there. Of course, I am on social media. Dr. LaRoche 2020@gmail.com is my, you can ask me questions there, but there is a way to ask questions on my website. So my priorities are there, but of course it's a website. My endorsements are there. My events are there. So if they have any questions, they can ask me that way. I also have a phone number that they can use.
Okay, fantastic. And Superintendent Browning, how can voters learn about you?
Mine's pretty simple. It's kurtbrowning2020.com. That is the campaign website. I've sworn social media off because most of what's out there is not true. It's a fabrication of the facts. And so I've sworn it off and sleeping pretty comfortably at night doing that. But any information you want to see or hear, you can get it off that website. Certainly my phone number's spread out far and wide. People can call me directly if they want, and be more than happy to discuss issues with.
Great, thank you. And on behalf of our 1,400 members and our board of directors, we want to thank both of you for joining us today and your willingness to serve in an elected office. And this concludes our candidate forum. Thank you.